Hello. All right. We're I think we're working.
Yes, we are. All right.
All right. I'll let you take it away, Ian.
Yep. So, welcome to Merge PHP 2023 in August. Um, and well, we'll get right into it here. Thanks to everybody for waiting for us to get things set up. We are using a new streaming platform, StreamYard, this time around. And hopefully, this will help with a little bit of quality things and such. We'll see. Anyway, Merge PHP is a whole bunch of PHP user groups that have banded together to present presentations online and sometimes in person. And we'll just go through them quickly here in a moment. First off, we have Atlanta PHP, founded in 2004, hundreds of events, thousands of members. And if you shoot an email to the email on screen, then you can be entered to get a JetBrains license. This can be used for PHP Storm or one of the other tools in the JetBrains suite. If you've won a license recently, please let other people win. But drop Chris an email and you'll be entered to get a JetBrains license of some sort, whether that's PHP Storm, WebStorm, GoLand, RubyMine, DataGrip, and on and on and on. Boston PHP, likewise, hundreds of events, thousands of members, founded in 2002. Bobby is here on as well as a representative of the organizers there. And in addition to this meetup, they have a virtual self-study group put on by Gene Bevan. And so you can take a look at that, see if there is something of interest there. Glad to have them contributing to Merge PHP as well. And then there's Austin PHP. Logan and I both rep this user group, and we've been around since 2002 as well. Hundreds of events, thousands of members. You're starting to see a trend here. And we some of us put on the Long Run PHP conference, which I will go into detail on a little bit later. We do have a Slack and Discord and GitHub as well. Seattle PHP, likewise, hundreds of events and nearly 2,000 members, and that is put on by Tim Bond. Thanks to Tim for organizing that and for being kind of the primary person to help put together these slide decks for every month. Then you have PHP Vancouver, been around since 2013, over 1,000 members. And basically, if you are in one of these areas, see if one of the meetups mentioned here is close to you. And if you want to RSVP there for Merge or for other events that they may have in person, you want to get plugged into a local PHP community. And if there isn't one yet, or if you don't think there is one yet, then, well, you're it. Then you have Vegas Programmers, or PHP Vegas, 1,000 plus members, been around since 2004, sponsored by Remote Dev Force and Josh Copeland. Remote Dev Force has also pitched in a bit for Merge PHP, so thanks to them for that. If you are in the Vegas area, they do have a meetup every so often in person, so you'll definitely want to check that out. I'm going to hop on mute here for just a second to make sure that I'm not being messaged something super important on chat. Okay, we're good. Next up, we have Kansas City PHP User Group. They have likewise been around for a while. In addition to this online presentation, they have a coffee shop chat. Eric Poe is primary organizer on that, and with a few others here as well, as you can see on the screen. If you're in the Kansas City area, definitely check out their local meetups and participate in your community there. Then we have Utah PHP. Mark Niebergall, who's a primary organizer for that shows up here, is currently apparently camping. So we'll say nice things about him behind his back. They've been around since 2003, have over 600 members. And if you are in kind of the Salt Lake City area, definitely check them out and participate in your local PHP community. San Diego PHP. This is John Condon, Eric Van Johnson's. They're the organizers here. Been around for a while, and you can check them out if you're in the San Diego area. And I believe, at least at one point, I think that's back, they have a Laravel meetup as well. And these two folks are also the folks who brought you this year PHP Tech and the PHP Ugly podcast. And now we have PHPDX in Portland, Oregon. Alina Holligan is primary organizer there, and they've been around for about 10 years now, have over 1,000 members, and historically I've run Cascadia PHP conference, which I had the privilege of, I think I presented at that twice in a row. I certainly attended both of them back in 2018 and 2019. Hopefully that'll make it back next year. We'll see. So with all of the meetups out of the way, as a friendly reminder, PHP versions run basically a Thanksgiving to 3 years from Thanksgiving support schedule. 7.4 is end of life, subject to whatever Linux distribution you're using, but kind of the upstream version has ceased getting even security patches. So if you're on PHP 7. Whatever, you should upgrade. 8.0 is currently in security patch only mode. So you'll definitely want to continue on that treadmill and make sure to keep upgrading your stuff, because the more versions that you have to jump, the harder it's going to be. As a side note, 8.2 wasn't too bad of an upgrade. 8.1 was worse. Just something to keep in mind. And this graph is available on the PHP website. So there are 12 conferences between now and middle of February on things related to PHP. Very few of them are on the US side of the pond. You have Cake PHP, Cake Fest here, as well as Longhorn PHP in early November in Austin. But a lot of these are available online as well as in person. And if you are in Europe and are seeing this, then you have a lot more options than we do in the States. And then as we get into 2024, there's PHP UK. I got the privilege of presenting to that both this year and last year. It's a great conference. And the CFP is currently open for that. For Longhorn PHP, we're currently in the speaker selection or speaker emailing out that they've been accepted process. We'll be announcing our schedule in the next couple of weeks. Also, as mentioned, PHP Tech is a thing. It was this past May, and we'll be back again last week of April in Chicago. So MergePHP is around on social media. We are on Twitter, X, what the heck ever. We're just going to keep calling it Twitter to make Elon mad. We're on Mastodon, on PHPC Social, as well as on YouTube, where you are likely watching this very presentation. And so if you're on one of these platforms, follow us there, and on YouTube, definitely like, subscribe, click the notification bell, or whatever the cool kids say these days. We're also on LinkedIn. once we get enough followers there, then we'll start live streaming to that platform as well. And I believe we are simulcasting this to Facebook or something. So we're on all the socials. Follow us there. Check us out. And likewise, if you have a local user group, they are likely in some form or fashion on socials as well. Please follow them. Oh, and by the way, we have a website that we're no longer embarrassed to point people to. It's at MergePHP.com. Thank you so much to Elena and the help of others on Code Review today to get this live. You can check out both current and previous editions of our online user group there. And that includes links to YouTube, information on the presenters, etc. So definitely check that out, and that is mergephp.com. For next month, Anirudh Sanjeev will be presenting about doing GraphQL things with Hasira. We'll have, if you're subscribed to your kind of local meetup group, everybody will be posting the talk description and bio of the presenter for that pretty soon. And that will, as always, be second Thursday of the month, 4 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Mountain Time, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and I believe that's 11 p.m. UTC. Also, if you want to be up here as a speaker, reach out to us. Best way to do that is mphp.io/speakers. We have a form there. Submit your talk idea there, and we'll see if we can get it in the lineup. We have, of course, September taken care of, and I think maybe 1 month later on, but we're always looking for really solid speaker content. With that, I'm going to maybe make sure that I've covered everything. Logan or any of the other organizers on here, did I miss anything before turning it over for our speaker this evening?
I think we're gonna do the drawing, the giveaway. Chris is busy, so just bear with us, and we might have an update on a winner after the talk. So
yeah, I figure we can throw that in chat or something. So, all right. In that case, I will turn this over to Christina Aldan, who we had the privilege of having as a keynote for Long Run PHP last year, and kind of let her take it from here as soon as I learn how to computer.
Awesome. Thank you. I really am happy to be here. I enjoyed my time a lot speaking last year in Austin. It was a really great community. And of course, Ian knows how to put on a really great show with the whole entire team. So I'm happy to be here again. Thanks, everybody. So this spring, I was feeling really old. I was feeling soft. And I was paying for the gym, but I wasn't exactly utilizing the gym. And so maybe some of you can relate to that. But, after a period of time, I gained 25 pounds and I only had 2 pairs of pants that would fit me. I had a pair of shorts that would fit me. That was it. And I really started feeling bad about myself. I started feeling depressed, and most of my life, I haven't liked the way that I look. And it's only been recently that when I look in the mirror, I see like the reflection matches. And so here I am, months are starting to go by. I can't wear my clothes. I'm starting to feel bad. And I was really feeling insecure about myself. So, it ended up that I had a friend who wanted to brush up on their photography skills. And I thought, okay, well, you know what? That's fine. In my 20s, I used to model. I did some figure modeling, whatever. You know what? It would be good to boost up my self-image. So I'll do some modeling, right? Oh, it seems like something is working asking, are you having a hard time? Oh no, you're okay. Okay, good. Sorry, I was checking the comments. So anyway, I was partnering up with my friend. My friend wanted to improve and brush up on their photography skills. I was feeling bad about myself. I was like, all right, cool, let's do this. So I took some photos. I started feeling better about myself. Cool. I had a friend who posted on Facebook that they needed a model for just 1 hour. And yes, it is orange. Yeah, that's right. No, you're good. The slide is supposed to be orange. Yeah. Thank you. So sorry. So my friend posted an ad up on Facebook and they said that they were looking for a model and it was just 1 hour and all you had to do is fit in the costume. And I was like, cool, maybe I could do that. Right. So I kind of half listened on the phone. I learned it would be like just 1 hour. They wanted me to come in for some makeup, put on a costume. I thought, great, I'll do that. It'll be dress up and I get to get paid. Nice. So then I looked up the Jedi that I'd be dressing up as, and it was Asohka Tano. Now she's in the Clone Wars, she's in the Mandalorian, she's in everything, right? She's got her own series coming up this month, in fact, and she's kind of a big deal. And so I contacted the agency again. I was like, I don't think I can do this. Like, I'm not, are you sure? Like, I thought this was just going to be a 1 hour thing. And pretty soon I realized it wasn't just a 1 hour thing. It was character role playing as a powerful, complex Jedi, Asohka Tano. And we get to watch her grow up from age 3 all the way into battle as an adult and all these fights. She's brutal, right? She's a Padawan for Anakin Skywalker. So all of these things. The other thing is that she uses 2 lightsabers. She has a reverse grip on her Shoto, and then she has a lightsaber. So all of these things were like suddenly blowing my mind. What have I gotten myself into, right? My name is Christina Aldan. I'm a brand strategy consultant based out of Las Vegas. I'm a speaker, I'm a trainer, a mentor, and I'm certified in mental health first aid training as well. I want to say thanks so much to MergePHP and thanks to Ian for having me here. This talk was born out of my personal experiences becoming a character actor on the Las Vegas Strip. So, people hire us as entertainers for events and for parties, which is a totally different thing than I've ever done in my life. So yeah, I suddenly realized, that I wasn't going to just go to a job where I would just walk around and I could smile, right? So this is what I started doing. I got my lightsabers and I took them everywhere. I began Jedi training, right? In the park, in the gym, while hiking. And I didn't want to do it. I totally doubted it. I tried on 4 different kinds of boots. I got blisters on my hands. Like I felt super dumb. I probably 4 times I called my friend Chris Gardner. He's the guy over at Character Talent, the agency. I called him. I was like, maybe there's somebody else who could do this. There's somebody else who could do this. I was seriously questioning, what I gotten myself into. And he was like, nope, too late. Contract signed. Right. So I studied and the 1 hour commitment suddenly became 30 hours. And I learned the attributes, the behaviors, all of these things, the highlight reels of the life of Asohka Tano. And the day came, big day. I went in 2 hours early because I was so excited. This is Adolfo. He's a dancer. He's the lead makeup artist for Cirque du Soleil here in Las Vegas, where I live. And he did my makeup. And it was a lot of fun. We listened to Janet Jackson the entire time. He's the best person I've ever worked with. Is really, really great as far as like makeup and talent. It's really cool. So, the complete suit, it was really incredible. It was the real deal. There were 2 professional stormtroopers. The Mandalorian flew in from LA, and then there was just little old me. So I felt very, very out of place and, not an actor at all. But, as it turned out, it kind of came together, And so my friend Chris at Character Talent, he kept encouraging me. And it all worked out. His company is really, really great to work with. and it all worked out. I overcame my feelings of insecurity. I overcame falling on my butt. I overcame the boot situation and blisters. I overcame what I thought were limitations in my body, but were really limitations of my mind. So today I want to talk about emotional resilience. And what I learned from this experience of feeling depressed and sluggish about myself for a few months to intentionally shifting my perspective over time, and turning it into a new adventure, really making it a win. I want to share with you some of those things that I learned today. Emotional resilience is really, it's how we adapt to and bounce back from adversity, right? It's how we adapt to frustration, to anger, to stress, to unpredictable changes. Some people are better than others at adapting to changes, anything like that we might experience in our lives. So humans have been said to be the most adaptable creatures on the planet, because we can adapt, right? We can always adapt to the information that we're taking in. And also because we're social creatures, we share that information just naturally. And so this is what differentiates our species from our earlier ancestors. And so we can use tools, we can use resources to build up emotional resilience. We can adapt ourselves, and we can also adapt the environment around us to our needs. And so why is this important? Well, it's important to develop emotional resilience because excellence just doesn't accidentally show up in your life, right? So we have to be intentional if we want to be successful at changing our behaviors and overcoming adversity. So if we look at it from the perspective of our results of what do we get when we don't have emotional resilience, these are some of the common things that we see. These are some of the common things that I see when working with my mentees. I'm a mentor for Asian Pacific Islander students, and also anybody transitioning careers into tech as well. Like I said, I'm trained in mental health first aid, so I can mentor people on career development and issues in the workplace as well. But we become very self-critical, without emotional resilience. And so it's a positive quality to live and examine life. Of course, don't take it too far. We don't want to be overly self-critical, but we can practice these techniques at the end of this talk. And if you're experiencing any of these outcomes, maybe we can shift those a little bit, like I was able to. Everyone thinks of changing the world, but no one thinks of changing himself. There are a lot of not so great consequences of not being able to bounce back from conflict and adversity. So the thing about that is that a lot of our struggles and our adversity come from, resisting and from conflict with other people. A lot of it comes from trying to change other people. And really, if we change our own behavior, what happens is the world around us starts to respond a little bit differently. So if we stop engaging in the conflict and fighting and arguing, then we can turn our attention instead toward creative problem solving, right? In a very collaborative way. So sometimes it isn't a collaborative effort, though. There have been times where what that means is if we stop fighting and engaging in the conflict, it means we disengage because the collaboration is not healthy, right? And so we can understand from an emotional resilience perspective and from an emotional intelligence perspective just how we are using our own skills, our tools, our resources to either lift people up, or are we trying to manipulate other people to change just for our personal gain? And when we talk about change, this is Prochaska and De Clemente's stages of change model. We use this. I've advised startups a lot, and you see this kind of stuff when we're talking about MVPs, right? When we talk about agile development, where how change kind of happens, the steps to that. The good news is for us as humans, because we adapt, right? We have this ability to take in new information and then adopt our behaviors. We can change. So slowly, any kind of unwanted behaviors or things that we've learned in the past that we don't want to react that way anymore, we can learn to respond better. We can teach our nervous system not to freak out every time a salesperson oversells, in the app and everybody's work. There are ways instead to disconnect from that and then move toward creative problem solving. Here's the reality of this, our brains constantly taking in information. It's always monitoring our environment. It's always monitoring our internal environment and our external environment. And so this is how we learn new behaviors and imprint those responses into our nervous system. That stimulus comes in, and then for us, we start to encode, store, and then retrieve it. That's learning. That's a learning process. So we memorize a series of patterns, things like that. And once we get a new stimulus again, boom, we respond or we react. But it's always better to try to respond if you can. Responsible people respond. If you can create some space instead of just having your first knee-jerk reaction, your first gut reaction sometimes always isn't the best one. And so, you got to sometimes train your brain to pause. And if you can just choose this path and choose this response, eventually that knee-jerk reaction response goes away. The neural pathways will dissolve as they are no longer stimulated by neurotransmitters in that specific circumstance. And so this is what that looks like, right? Neuroplasticity is that quality that helps us learn. So if you've heard me speak before, you've seen this slide, and I talk about how when we stimulate our brain over and over again, that imprints it into the nervous system. We get thicker myelinated sheaths, the nerve bundles, get more proteins at the protein synthesis, at the connections, all of these things to reinforce those neural pathways. Equally and oppositely, neuroplasticity tells us that if we don't use those neural pathways, they dissolve. If you don't use it, you lose it. And here's the problem with that, of course, is that our lizard brain, our limbic system is there, and it gets the signal first, unfortunately. So we're already at a biological and physiological disadvantage. So the key to success is learning to identify those triggers and then respond productively instead of, reacting. I usually tell the story about when I was a little kid crawling around on my grandma's floor, and I picked up a bobby pin, one of those hairpins, right? It's a perfect size for that 110 watt outlet. And so it zapped me. And I never did that again because the stimulus was strong enough that it imprinted onto my nervous system. And that's the kind of thing that if it's strong enough, you will never forget that lesson. And, the thing about that is when we get these kinds of stimuli, it's conflict, it's danger, it's, oh my gosh, we get super nervous. Or we see some conflict and we want to get all in there. Maybe we're trying to control somebody else's behavior or change them. The only reason that we see that behavior, that we notice it, or that it's upsetting us is because we have some kind of relationship with that behavior ourselves. Either we have maybe overcome it, or maybe we are still dealing with it. That's the only reason, because humans have this quality. They call it mirror neurons, but it's, essentially we can understand the emotions of other people, unless you are born with a debilitating disease that prevents that. But most of us, this is the quality that helps. And look, we have all these emotions. I give out this emotions wheel often in my workshops. To be able to communicate clearly, it's important to be able to identify what emotions you're feeling. And I love this one because it has bad on it. If you look on it right up here, the green one says bad, because sometimes I'll tell my kids, they'll not feel well. And I'll say, okay, well, how are you feeling? You're angry, you're mad, well, I'm bad. Okay, well, what kind of bad? Are you tired bad? Are you bored bad? Are you stressed bad? And so it really helps to clarify your emotions. And when we can use those more complex words to describe our emotions, it's a lot easier and more helpful in expressing how we feel. We even have a pillow in our house, and so we use it to help and describe our emotions. And so that brings us to emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence comes in 4 parts. It's my favorite topic. It is awareness of self, awareness of others, management of self, and management of others. So it's our relations to ourself, our relations to others is what it is. And emotional intelligence is like our it's kind of like our IQ, but it's our emotional intelligence, our emotional quotient, our EQ. And this is something that includes our intuition. So it brings in all of our attributes as well. And we're not going to cover all of them, but you should know there are about 5 different types. They kind of sort all the attributes into these 5 categories of internal motivation, self-regulation, self-awareness, empathy, and social awareness. So there's just a little bit of a moment that I want to remind everybody, though, and that is cultural competency and nuance of conversations is really important. So let me tell you what that looks like. In emotional intelligence, it's about our relationships with others. It's about our communication, and so a lot of times you'll see people in an argument or in a conflict, and they latch on to things that might be generalizations or stereotypes, or they latch on to, well, I did this before, and so that means you must do this. Assumptions, right? A lot of these conversations are nuanced, and people who have high emotional intelligence are able to adapt and adjust to the nuance of those conversations. The other thing is cultural competency. And I talk about this a lot in my nonprofit with the mental health first aid work that we do, because, and even in my mentorship, because if somebody is struggling and they want to get help, or they seek help from somebody for their emotional processing, they need more skills, they need more coping skills, whatever that is, it's important to have somebody that is a culturally competent therapist. Meaning, if I have a mentee who is Vietnamese, then it's important for me to find them and direct them toward a mental health professional who can help support them in understanding exactly the type of cultural issues that they're going through. So that's what I want to just preface emotional intelligence with, and the things that we're talking about here today. So let's look at these 5 different categories of emotional intelligence. It's internal motivation, self-regulation, self-awareness, empathy, and social awareness. So some tools that you can build for your self-awareness. If you want to improve your self-awareness, one thing that I do, I tell people to make a list of core values. Take 3 to 5 core values and see what makes you tick throughout all of the things that you do, your volunteer, through your family, through your projects, through your work. What are those core values that really drive you and motivate you, or not motivate you to work with somebody? Remember, I talked about how sometimes it's important to have the wisdom to know when to unplug from an unhealthy situation. So one self-awareness tool is making a list of core values. Another tool that I like to give people for self-management is, writing down, I can't remember, you can write down an emotions versus a reasons list, right? And the first column is write down what your emotions are telling you to do. And the next column is what your reason is telling you to do. Any kind of logical reasoning, the intellectual stuff. And so this helps you kind of balance each side. If you notice that you're writing out 2 columns and one column is all emotional, or maybe one column's all reason and rational, then maybe you need to balance them out. And so that's a good self-management tool for regulating your own emotions. Another one is looking at your body language, making sure that your body language matches your tone. My one of my kids came in the other day, and I was like, "Gosh, what's up with you?" And they were like, "Nothing." I was like, "Really?" Because seems like something's up. No, I feel really happy. And I was like, "Well, you should tell your face because doesn't seem like it." So being aware of your body language, how you're addressing your colleagues at work, how your voice is pitched or maybe soft. Think about that, and then address your body language to make sure you're communicating so that your body language matches your tone. You can also do something like improve your social awareness. And so improving your social awareness, I tell people to look at other people's body language, look at how their feet are pointing down. My collaborator and colleague, Leslie Martinich, has a funny engineering joke about that. But anyway, if you look at your feet, and you're talking to someone and their feet and their bodies is turned toward you, then there's a good chance that they're listening and they're paying attention. If their body and their feet are pointed toward the door, then it's time to wrap up that conversation and move on out, because probably they're not paying attention. An empathy tool that you can use also is, being able to have a stronger awareness of others and try to sit with somebody who is struggling and develop the skill to just listen without judgment, without trying to fix it, without trying to put a silver lining around it. And those are some examples of some tools that you can use for emotional intelligence. So, and those are the 5 types of emotional intelligence traits. So let's talk a little bit about the things that I learned playing Asohka Tano. Remember this change model, right? As we adopt these new practices, I want you to, as I'm kind of telling my story, I want you to think about in your life how this happens. Like, where do you practice things over and over again? And where do you monitor your progress? So personally, I think that sometimes people don't think about this. If you can monitor your personal progress, it really helps with your self-confidence and improve your emotional resilience in being able to look back and see the things that you've overcome. So you can choose to monitor personal KPIs like arguments. How many arguments are you having? Do you ever find yourself in conflict? If you're a person who suffers with anxiety, you can count your episodes or any kind of attacks here and there where you had to monitor your anxiety. You can monitor your sick days. You can also look at mentorship hours given and mentorship hours received. Are you giving back and sharing your personal knowledge back into the community? Are you receiving new knowledge? And then another one, the last one here, is feedback. How have you given feedback? How have you received feedback? Are you helping others by lifting them up based on constructive criticism and helpful feedback? So tracking your progress, it serves 2 functions, right? So number 1, like I said, it validates your success. That then motivates you to do that thing more. When I was really insecure and feeling like I was never going to fit in the costume and I couldn't do this on the Las Vegas Strip at a May the 4th be with you party besides, right? It was just a lot of pressure for me and I didn't want to do it. I kept going, oh, I think there's somebody else maybe that could do this. But actually, every time we practiced more, I felt better and I got more and more confident. So it shows how far you've come as well. And that improves your self-confidence. So you start to feel better about yourself. So here are some examples of doing it right. So for example, I'm a mentor and I mentor first generation Asian Pacific Islander students. Like I said, I do it in honor of my late husband for free. And, I had a student who was really struggling with a programming class. In fact, what they did is they decided to practice emotional resilience. They got help from the tutoring office. They talked to me, and I introduced them to some developers who had written that language, who were familiar with that language. And they were able to get off probation. They went and talked to the dean of students. They did all of these things. They embraced the resilience. They reached out for help. They accepted, yes, I know I got myself here in this position, but now I'm ready to use creative problem solving to move it forward, and got up on over the top of those emotions. And, I think that the lesson here is that if you don't have the answer and you don't know what to do, you can go and ask other people and talk to other people, because they might have a resolution that you've never even thought about. So, their scholarship committee, their tutor, everything totally helped them out, and it absolutely worked out. So the next time that you're feeling hopeless and you're feeling low on emotional resilience, just consider that, other people might have a resolution for you, or even point you in the right direction. An example of doing it wrong, I had, an example of doing it wrong is somebody who doesn't cope and choose emotional resilience. And, I've known people in my life who did not get help, and instead skipped class, dropped out, dug in fact, to those emotions, and almost get stuck in the feeling of hopelessness and helplessness, despite what anybody does to try to help them or lift them up. People who are really struggling, they can go to the counseling center, they can go to the therapist, they can go, of course, choose a culturally competent therapist, right? That's important. But over time, what happens is we gradually regain this sense of stability. We learn to integrate these big, complex feelings and emotions into our life again, and we settle into a new normal, right? So anybody who's really struggling with a challenge, I really encourage people to seek help and channel that pain and whatever the challenge is, to overcome it and turn it into positive actions. So at this point, I just want to pause and remind you again, the master has failed more times than the beginner has ever tried. So a lot of this stuff, sometimes it's new and it's uncomfortable, and we might try a communication thing with our spouse and go in after 12 years of communicating badly, and we might try to practice something, and then they don't receive it, or we don't get it right the first time. We're just trying to show up as intentionally as possible, but it doesn't quite work. I just want to remind everybody to be patient, because when you're practicing new skills, it's a little awkward, right? It's a little awkward. Just keep showing up to do this work. I realize it's easier said than done, but just keep showing up to do this work, because I found that the redeeming qualities, right? The redemption, it comes from putting in that work, and then, deciding just to be a little bit uncomfortable. There are a couple other things I think I'm going to skip right here. We're going to go right here. I can come back to those if we still have time. So like I was saying, putting in the work is important. And this is what putting in the work looks like for me, right? So I noticed, step one, I noticed there's a pattern playing out in some kind of a dynamic. In this case, I kept ruminating over and over again. I am old. I'm fat. I can't do this. I'm not an actor. What am I doing? I can't do this on this Las Vegas Strip at a big casino in front of thousands of people. I can't, over and over and over again. So I noticed that pattern of, just bullying myself, essentially. So I needed to interrupt the pattern. And so there were certain things that I would do just to interrupt that pattern. I would text my friend. I would practice. I would pick up my saber, and I would practice, because that would break up the pattern. And then, the next thing is to communicate to other people that you're doing a thing. And so that was helpful. Like I said, I talked to my friend Chris, and I kept saying, I don't know. And he was super supportive the entire way. Also, it's important to take responsibility for your own part and your own actions and how you're showing up to this. And then the last thing that I recommend for people is just to seek support, just to get some help if you're feeling like you don't have the answer. So let's talk about the things that I learned. I want to go through these last several minutes here and just pick out some of the quotes that I learned as I was studying the life of Asohka Tano. These are a lot of the things that resonated with me and still resonate with me, not just here, but in other areas of my life for emotional resilience. And while it's fun to just say, okay, I cosplay, I do character acting, for this character, but the reality is that we can still use these same principles for anything where we're trying to build up emotional resilience. So the first one is owning your shadow side. So we've all encountered a person at some point in our life who, has dissonance. I mean, even me, I have dissonance and cognitive dissonance and several things, I'm sure. And they just refuse to acknowledge their shadow side, right? And so when they're wrong, they might double down instead of admitting that they're wrong, or they might project onto you or accuse you of the very thing that they did, or lying, or whatever that is. So embracing your shadow side really kind of requires facing those uncomfortable traits that you have in yourself and learning to work with them. And I'm not saying you have to accept them. This is what it looks like for me. Like, I will catch myself being a jerk and it sucks. And I will have to say, whoa, what's happening? This is, no, it's something I'm out of line. Like, I need to check myself. Hold on. What's happening? And it's really uncomfortable. And I have to have a conversation with the other person. Maybe it's an apology. Maybe it's a breakdown in the conversation of where it turned. Some people, they're not open to that either. That's the hard part. But if you can have the conversation with yourself about what happened, where it broke down, and just learn about your shadow side. You don't have to accept your shadow side. What I do is I go, oh, there I go again. Oh, there's that thing that I do. There's that pattern. I'm working out my pattern again. It's not fair to my friend. It's not fair to my partner that I'm working on that pattern. I need to do a little bit more shadow work. And so, the more that we can admit to ourselves, yeah, this is a thing that I have, the more aware we can be of it. So when it shows up, I can go, oh, wait, there's the pattern. Stop, hold on. And I can course correct, hopefully sooner rather than later. I mean, hopefully sooner rather than later if you course correct. But people like it when you show up authentically like that and transparently like that, right? Because that creates psychological safety for the people around you as well. And they know that, oh, you're accepting your flaws, then, they're going to be a little more self-forgiving for themselves and give themselves grace about accepting their own flaws as well. So integrating your shadow side, it can be, a long, arduous process, but it's great for your personal growth and development. And as somebody who's gone through, thousands of hours of therapy and self-development and improvement, I can say it's a really frustrating journey. But when you think you understand those negative aspects of yourself, the cool part about that is then you can kind of see them when they're about to rear their ugly heads. And, it's you're not surprised by a big explosion all over everybody. The next one is decision making. I did realize something. The politics of war are not as black and white as I once thought they were. And so what I learned about Asohka is that, she was a Jedi, and then the Jedi, they wrongfully accused her, and she left the order, and then they invited her back, and she was like, no, I'm not coming back. But even when she was younger, she realized, there was this arrogance about her, until she realized, actually, we got to collaborate more. Our ability to collaborate, it's it's a very influential part of our emotional intelligence and how we can overcome things and with emotional resilience. So there's not really just one way to accomplish a task. Equally, like I was saying earlier, if you're feeling hopeless, like you don't even know how to accomplish the task, it's super helpful to collaborate and then, work with other people, stay flexible, make adjustments, because that's how the entire project is going to go towards success. We definitely had to do that for me, because every time they came in and I kept doing the entry in the room and spinning, I would fall every time. And I tried 4 different boots and it wasn't working. And so we came up with a different opening scene, and we collaborated together on it instead of just trying to script it where it didn't work. And it worked out really, really nice. The client was very happy. Decision making. If you make decisions out of fear, you are more likely to be wrong. This again talks about that emotional intelligence and keeping your emotions manageable and not getting dysregulated because, some stimulus comes in and it's too much and it's overwhelming and you're acting out. So if you make decisions out of fear, you're much more likely to be wrong, she tells us. This is Dr. Mona Rebecca. I met her in Stockholm in Sweden, and she reminds us that whenever we are hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, we should not make decisions. She's an expert, and she is a decision-making consultant. She consults for companies to help them in their decision-making processes. So whenever emotional resilience is lacking, individuals, they're going to struggle with clear and rational decisions. And most of us, the average human experiences 465 emotions a day. We vacillate. And so, having all those shifts, it's important to never get stuck into just one emotion and holding on to angry or holding on to lonely or holding on to whatever it is, because then we start to, ruminate, we start to feel depressed, and that's not really great at all. I have 2 more quotes here from Asohka Tano. The more I learn, the less I understand about the Force. So experts know that they don't know, right? Experts know that they don't know everything, and they're willing to have that humility about what they do know. Emotional resilience, got to have humility to have emotional resilience, because that's how we learn the new skill and then overcome the adversity. If you're unwilling to learn the new skill and you don't have humility about taking in any new information or whatever that situation is, you're going to be really arrogant. People don't like that so much. People don't want to work with you. So you've got to do that interpersonal development work, and be willing to get it wrong once in a while, especially as a beginner, which brings me to my last one. This is a new day, a new beginning, she says. And so the beginner's mind is really important. Having a beginner's mind is essential when we cultivate emotional resilience, because it's that openness, that curiosity. It's very intuitive, right? Inquisitive kind of beginner's mind, and embracing that continuous mindset of learning means that you can acquire those new skills. And so as we're constantly learning, we're constantly growing, we're able to give ourselves the grace and the self-forgiveness when we screw up. Right. So overly critical of ourselves. I'm overly critical of myself. Sometimes maybe we succumb to depression or anxiety at the first sign of a setback, which in certain times of my life, I definitely have done that. But we're just humans. So as humans, just remember that we're naturally curious. Naturally, we want to expand our understanding of the world around us. And so I want to encourage everybody to be open to new possibilities. I certainly didn't think that I would be doing Jedi training at age 47 and working on the Las Vegas Strip as a character actor. So you never know what would happen. Just keep an open mind and see what happens. Oh, I did want to put this just a few things at the end here of my slides. This is a wheel of cognitive biases. And so there's 188 unique cognitive biases. And through confirmation biases, this is how we form, we stereotypes, we reconfirm or validate stereotypes that we have about people. So keeping a beginner's mind is going to help avoid these kinds of things that we have inherently, and they're wired into our day-to-day behaviors. Here's some questions. If you want to take some screenshots, I guess I could always send over the PDF to the slides. People used to ask me about what are those questions again? So now I just put them all in the slide. But we can ask questions to avoid those kinds of biases as we are developing and going along in our relationships, in our career, in our projects. And these are the types of things that are going to help us collaborate better. We're going to be able to get better results. We're going to be able to improve our relationships. Remember when I said about being inquisitive? Here are some questions, some open-ended questions that you can ask to people. If you're anything like me, I didn't used to be really good at small talk, but if you have some questions with some follow-up questions that are not just yes or no, you get to know people better. You get to learn people better. You get to learn what's important to them and what their values are. Remember, I told you one of those good self-management, self-awareness tools is to think about your core values. And so when we're forming relationships, these are some of the communications that we can have to get inquisitive and tap into that curiosity and that curious mind. Oh, and here's some redirecting questions. This is the last one. So the redirecting questions are, asking people about themselves instead of about yourself. Because for me, I always get nervous when I start talking about myself, or especially if I'm at a conference and I'm repeating myself over and over again, I get really self-conscious. And so I like to redirect questions back to other people. And what that does is it helps me get to know those other people better and communicate with them better and understand the kinds of issues that they're overcoming, the kinds of challenges that they have. And when we form these closer relationships, we form these deeper relationships, it helps us when we're struggling and we need that little bit of extra emotional resilience. Maybe, I had a friend who was going through divorce. And unfortunately, there was a person with an addiction involved. And when they went to their AA meeting and came out, because they thought, oh, I don't need to go to the AA meeting. I'm not the one with the addiction. They went to the AA meeting and they heard their same story come out of other people's mouths. It really helped them with their own emotional resilience to feel like they're not alone, to feel like other people are going through these challenges, and to just be authentic and supportive to people who are experiencing the same kind of thing. And that is really how we overcome emotional resilience and learn new coping skills from the people around us and from mental health professionals. So emotional resilience is really key if we want to have success in life, and the ability to adapt and bounce back from adversity. It really keeps our mental health and our well-being balanced. Without it, we're going to feel extended anger, frustration that turns into depression, and I really don't want people to feel that way anymore. If you can use these skills and use Asohka Tano and her advice and her tips to overcome these emotional issues, with practice, it gets better. And I know this as somebody who has been diagnosed with severe PTSD and complex grief, and standing here today, having overcome that. And I just want to share that with everybody else so that they can also improve and experience the benefits. And today, I'm practicing a duel, which is really cool. So this is a little, I guess maybe the video might be a little hiccupy, but I'm practicing a duel now with Darth Maul. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. I'm a 47-year-old mom. I never thought I'd be doing Jedi training and Taekwondo several times a week. So thanks, everybody. This was a new talk. And so if anybody wants to give me feedback, I would love that in email, or my DMs are pretty much open everywhere on Twitter, LinkedIn, everywhere. I'm Luckygirliegirl everywhere on the internet. And if you want to use the hashtag Mastering Resilience online, we can keep the conversation going. So thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Christina. I'm going to add some people here. We're going to join you on screen.
Hi, people there. I see you.
Everybody's here. All the organizers. They were hiding in the background.
I love it. Awesome.
I don't know.
That's
if
great.
You can see it. Let me turn off the banner. If anybody has any questions for Christina on YouTube, just hit them. Feel free to type it out there in chat, and we will repeat it back to Christina. I'm not sure if she can. The integration isn't working with StreamYards, but we can certainly repeat what you say.
Yeah. I did bring some extra slides. I didn't know how much time we would have. I could explain a little bit about what the mental health first aid training is that I do and how it helps people. Or I could also explain a little bit about what to expect if you do get help from a mental health professional. If anyone's interested in those slides, you can just let me know.
So, do you have any advice on dealing with, like, struggling with finding switching careers, or kind of like career-related stress?
Career-related stress is really tough right now because what worked before doesn't work now, right? And so you're looking for work and you think you're going to talk to this person or that, or things shift, or I've had people, I mean, it's wild right now. I've had friends who accepted work, and then the very day that they show up to work, they're like, oh no, by the way, we're not hiring anymore. Your job's been eliminated. And it's been really, really stressful. I think the advice that I've been giving people lately is to limit your time. It's about managing your time to manage your mind. And so if you're on the job hunt, spend like 2 hours, maybe around 10 to noon, working on a little bit. And then I would do other things that light you up. Go find a nonprofit that has a cause you share that purpose with. Interestingly enough, I have found so much work just doing that. So when I do fun things where I'm just, hey, I'm gonna go on a Saturday afternoon and help in the garden, it's interesting because suddenly I'm bumping up against, the wife of somebody who owns the tech company, who has the something, and I match up with people. So for me, connecting with other people in a way that is authentic and vulnerable. Hey, listen, I can go. In fact, I live in Vegas, right? So there's always something going on right now. There's a networking event right now that I'm not going, and I could totally go to the networking event and go, hi, everybody. Hi, here's my card. Hi, here's some superficial stuff. And okay, we're connecting and we're kind of friends. That's not the kind of connecting I'm talking about. I'm talking about finding at least one person in your life that you can really connect with and they can get the raw feed, and they're not going to judge you, and you're going to feel psychologically safe. And if you don't have that person, then it's probably a good idea to go talk to a counselor or go talk to a professional or a mental health person who can help. Here is another question too. Let's see, what does it say? How to force swap an emotion to its complete opposite. Oh. Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
jumping around. I like the circle kind of that you had.
Oh yeah, the circle.
Yeah.
For the bias or for the feelings, the emotions wheel. Yeah.
The emotion. Yeah, the emotion wheel.
So
The emotion.
in the chat that YouTube folks can't see, but they saw the original question. The context here is actually more career related stuff. So
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So yes, exactly what opposite of what you need to present in interviews and stay motivated to the search. Yeah, it has to. Yeah, and the emotions hit immediately. It's so hard because we don't have a choice. We have 700 milliseconds, and some people will say, and some research has been done where we can pattern map people's brains and anticipate 10 minutes before the decision that they're going to make. Like, right? But think about it this way, 700 milliseconds from that emotion hits. If you can inhale and exhale for 90 seconds, not only does that biologically calm your nervous system, it tells your mind that you are willing to calm down. And if you cannot tell your mind that you are willing to calm down, then that's an issue. And again, you'll need to improve your coping skills and work with a health professional on that. So you can sit with that emotion. Sometimes there's an exercise that I've done, and of course, not knowing a person, I can't just, oh yeah, this will work for everybody. But sometimes I have taken a piece of paper and gone, all right, this is the worst case scenario. And I wrote it all out, because a lot of that is we're wanting to get the job. We want to get hired. There's all this stress. I mean, the incredible pressure that we have. And you can barely breathe, but now you have to present. One thing that you could do is you could write it all out and say, what if I don't get it? What if I don't get the job? What if the worst happens and everything, blah, 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 and just get it out on the paper so it lives on the paper instead of ruminating in my head. This is where it lives now. You live here now. Sometimes that's just been enough to break up the pattern for me, because within 5 to 6 hours, those neural pathways will start dissolving. And if you don't re-stimulate those neural pathways within 21 to 35, I think it is, days, they'll completely dissolve. Now, if the trauma is really heavy, of course, it's going to take you months to get rid of that. But that's not really what we're talking about here. We're talking about, that stress from the job. So if you can empty it out of your head right there, that's an important thing. Connect with other people, limit it so that you only search for those 2 hours, and then only schedule interviews on certain times and certain days. You cannot do back-to-back interviews 10 hours a day. You're going to bomb it. They're never going to hire you. It isn't going to work. Your exhaustion is going to come through, And so set yourself up for success, I think, by that time management where you can really box it. And the tendency for me is to stay up all night. At night, it's quiet. At night, nobody's going to bother me. Slack's not going. My texts aren't going. My kids are asleep. It's peaceful. It's quiet. And then I sit there at night and I'm like, oh, this is great. Okay, I had some wind down time. And I go, oh, actually, I'm going to fire up the switch. And then actually it's just one more episode of, whatever. And those things are not setting you up for success. Sleep is like one of the number one things that makes our mind be able to cope with emotional and have the emotional resilience. Yeah. So switching it is not an exact opposite, like, hey, I'm going to switch it just like that. You can fake it till you make it through those interviews, But until then, if you want to come back to normal, and trust me, I used to schedule 10 hours of burnout a quarter, 10 days of burnout a quarter, because I would burn out so hard. I get it, but you can't burn out from the job search, because you start to just self-sabotage. Yeah. Does anybody else have any other questions? Oh, by the way, I am doing a practice. I just started this every month, and I'm doing it with my collaborator, Leslie, the fourth Tuesday of every month. We're actually going to be practicing role-playing live scenarios from corporate America, engineering. And so we're going to role play online our workshop. So we're doing that once a month. If I can send the details to Ian, if anybody's interested.
Yeah, definitely. We can share that out. Is it going to be on LinkedIn or where?
It's luckyandleslie.com is what it is. It's luckyandleslie.com. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, we'll mention that. Maybe have that as a kind of tag on September's meetup. Like, hey, if you were here in August, just so that actually gets seen by folks. Okay.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. Thanks so much for presenting. A little bit of housekeeping here that we'll just hop right into. That JetBrains license from earlier is, I believe, still available. Drop Chris Sprock an email. Let me see if I can pull that slide back up onto the screen.
Chris at atlantaphp.org, if I remember right.
Yep. So it's Chris at atlantaphp.org.
Yep, atlantaphp.org.
Just drop that into the chat there. And we can actually do this. Yeah. Thanks to everyone for attending this month's MergePHP. And yeah, definitely drop an email if you want that JetBrains license. And otherwise, we will see y'all at the next one.
Thanks, Christina.
Thanks, Christina.
Thanks.
Thank you, Christina.
See ya.
Thanks, Christina. Thanks, everybody.
Cheers, everyone.